Hi, I'm Sarah Chamberlain. I'm Executive Director of National PKU News, and I've got a few members of the team who have put together this new project up here today. I'm going to give you an introduction. Jeb and I will give you a little introduction, and then we're going to do a Q&A, hopefully for about half the time. So we're excited to hear what you have to ask and to present this project to you. Jeb Haber will speak a little bit after me. He is the president of the board of directors of National PKU News and also a vice president at NPKUA. And then Amaya Badabakar will speak, and Amaya and Dr. Chris will also take questions, but they've been key members of this team developing the project, and so we wanted to have their points of view. So a little background. For those of you who don't know, who is PKU News and how do we connect with the community? I have there in parentheses 2 of our earliest programs that were begun in the 80s, which was like before the year 2000 for some of you in the room. That was a PKU newsletter. It's been great this weekend to hear from people who still have their PKU newsletters and all they learned from them in the early years after diagnosis. And that's just a really important legacy for us. And the low protein food list for PKU, which I came along and broke by turning into How Much Fee in 2014. We also have in our family Cook for Love. You've been enjoying a lot of Cook for Love recipes on the low protein side this weekend, and we've been really honored to be a part of that. Go Low Pro is our low protein restaurant and grocery locator. And then, as probably all of you know, we do a lot of support through Facebook groups. We also do research and clinician collaborations, and we have pocketbooks, which maybe some of you got upon diagnosis. We also have them out at our table if anyone wants to take one home. Since 1998, we have offered the Guthrie Koch Scholarship to young adults with PKU who are pursuing higher education. We did the stats on this last night. I think it's on a later slide. And then as of this year, we took over PKU Northwest Family Camp. And so we have brought sort of that communal family experience into PKU News so we can continue to reach nationally and internationally. So just looking at our engagement, you know, as I said, community is incredibly important to us, and that's what we're building this next project on. How Much Fee was founded in 2014. There's about 2,500 current subscribers, and 65 were active in the most recent month. About half of the active subscribers use it daily. There's 7 metabolic disorders tracking. Over the life of the app, we've had more than 5 million food searches and 7.7 million foods viewed. That's because a lot of foods are on people's favorites because there's a sort of repetitive diet sometimes. So you don't always have to look at the food. You can just click it off your favorites button. And we've had 16,000 blood levels tracked in that time. Looking at social and scholarship engagement, both the How Much Fee Facebook group and the Cook for Love Facebook group, we can't take all the credit for the Cook for Love Facebook group. Brenda, who's not here, is really a leader in that community. She founded that group in 2009. They recently topped 8,000 members. And in both those groups, we have really high active participation. So in the most recent month, you can see those numbers. So there's the Guthrie Koch scholarship numbers. We've provided over 185 scholarships to individuals pursuing higher education. And that's a really important program. We recently got a grant to revamp and expand that program. So look for that more in the coming years. Oops, back. So what's next? We've been at all the recent conferences since we launched How Much Fee in 2014 and other events and camps in between, and we get a lot of requests. So I would like How Much Fee to be an app. I need offline access. I want a barcode scanner. And we said, yes, we do too. All those things are important to us. But then we thought about what else was important to us. We have a long legacy of supporting the community through diet management, but diet management is difficult, and it's not the only thing that we need to look at. We also have a practice in this community where we focus a lot on blood levels. are you in range? And if you're in range, the assumption is that things are good. So we sort of approach this by trying to pick that question apart. Looking at where we stand now, IEM assessment and treatment is limited. We've got food, we've got blood spots, and we do it again. I wish I could run through that slide, circle, 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 but we all get the pattern. That's the feedback we get, and we don't have a lot of other tools. We have how much fee, but we need other resources, and we need to improve how much fee. And so the community recognizes this, but the medical community also recognizes this. These are the Pku Treatment Guidelines from 2014 from the American College of Medical Genetics. These are currently being revised and updated, so we will have new treatment guidelines. But even in 2014, there was the understanding that we still don't really understand the optimum therapies for managing PKU. And we don't know the effects of those therapies or the long-term consequences of those who are even well treated early on. And the statement from the guidelines said, looking forward, better tools and strategies are required. We need to look at other biomarkers, and current and future therapies need to look at not just the ability to lower fee, but the ability to enhance quality of life. And for us and our focus on the community, that quality of life is essential. Thinking about those guidelines and the pattern that we all in our PKU management, rotate through day after day, we really came to the conclusion that one metric doesn't define your health. We know that blood level isn't your full story. And we set out to talk with the community. We did a series of focus groups. We have lots of feedback coming in all the time from Facebook groups, et cetera. But we did some structured focus groups to say, this is what we're thinking about. What do you think? And what you told us and what the community told us, this was not just PKU. We focused on anyone with an inborn error of metabolism treated by a low protein diet. Told us that this clicker's fast. Rare disease can be isolating, difficult, confusing, lonely, and uncertain. I think my thumb is fast. And in response to that, we asked ourselves, what if we had someone to share our experience with? What if we could learn from others who understand us? We asked, what if you could better understand your own health? What if we had a way to connect? And what if we all had something that gave us hope? And our next question was, what are we missing? What makes it lonely, uncertain, confusing, isolating, et cetera? For patients and caregivers, we often have a lack of understanding or a misunderstanding of symptoms. I can't tell you how many times people have asked, is this PKU or is it just how my child is developing? Is it PKU or is it just adolescence? Is it PKU or is it just aging? And because we don't have that data, we don't have that long-term data, and we don't have a good understanding of how the disorder manifests in individuals, we can't answer those questions all the time. I mentioned existing support tools need improvement. We still have a huge gap in community connection. Despite the awesome connections we all have at these conferences every 2 years and at the other regional meetups and camps, the community needs more connection. And that includes those who are lost to care. The stat is almost half the population who's been identified by newborn screening is currently not under care. And we feel that we have a responsibility to all members of the community to reach out and forge those connections. And again, looking at the question of not having the data on long-term care and older patients, we just don't know the knock-on effects of treatment. We don't know what it looks like when you've been on amino acid formula for 60 years. For example, there are lots of examples like that. So we need more information. Clinicians need insight into daily life. When you go into your clinic and they say, how you been feeling the past 6 months? it's not all that useful when you have a sort of limited recall and they put it down in their notes. If they understood your daily life better, they could treat you better. And that's what we hear from them. They want to know more. They need more research focused. More research is currently focused on a cure and therapy versus management and patient experience. We all agree that we need a cure and we need better treatments. In the meantime, we also need to better manage our care and improve the quality of life while we're getting there. Researchers need that longitudinal data on a larger population. Dr. Christ always says, need more brains, which is my favorite. But we need brains and hearts and minds and symptoms and mental health reports. And we need a lot more information to truly understand this. And we need to feed that to our researchers so they can turn around and give us better treatments, better management options, and a quicker path to the cure. And then again, information on the health of early and consistently treated patients beyond blood amino acid levels. That is not the whole story, and we need to understand more. So what we want a better understanding of the disorder as a whole and of our own personal baselines. You know, we talk a lot about personalized medicine now, but some people will feel great with a level of 3. Some people need it near a 2. Some people function better higher, and we don't understand why. We need increased community connection and reduced isolation, and we need mental health support and mutual support. Clinicians need a better understanding of overall patient health and daily life in order to be more helpful to you. And researchers need a rich data set grounded in an organic natural history, and they need guidance from us, we believe, and from our health to help make the decisions about what they're going to research and pursue. So as we sat and thought about what we were going to do next, we wrote up a list of things that we believe as an organization should guide us going forwards. I'm not going to read all of them, but for us, it's grounded in community, it's grounded in mutual support, and it's grounded in the health of the individual contributing to the health of the community. I'm not going to read them all. So the question was, what if we had a flock to bring us all together? Now you guys know what a flock is. And what a flock does, it's going to be a new mobile app that helps you understand how you feel, eat, play, and move. And underneath that all is going to be data-driven research, which helps us all move the science of PKU and other inborn errors forward. And so I'm going to give you a quick tour of what that might look like. And this is not finalized. You'll see our roadmap at the end. But for us, being part of the flock is fun. It's engaging, but it's also helpful. You'll notice as those screens zip by that you get to be a cute little animal, but also that this is not just about PKU. This project is disorder agnostic. It's all inborn errors of metabolism on a low protein diet. And that's something that's very important to all of us because we are the largest group of the inborn errors. We have the most fundraising power, as you've all seen today. We have the most patient data. We have the most engaged community. And therefore, we believe we have the most responsibility to work with those smaller disorders who have similar struggles and have a similar, at least, dietary treatment path. When you get to other treatments and a cure, those are going to look differently. Those are going to look different. But all of us currently on the diet have a set of symptoms which can inform the larger project. So part of that, the first section is eat. The app will include How Much Fee, Go Low Pro, and Cook for Love. And for all of you who subscribe to How Much Fee, don't worry, it'll roll over into this. And I want to give a note on that. The only part of this app that will cost anything is going to be an expanded How Much Fee subscription, sort of a premium access to the foods that we're running through amino acid testing. But it means that about 2/3 of the current How Much Fee database is going to be open to anyone. How Much Fee and the revenue from How Much Fee is kind of what keeps the lights on at PKU News. We don't do a ton of fundraising. We have a small staff, as you'll see in a minute, but our focus has really been on taking that tool as a resource for the community and feeding the revenue from that back into improving How Much Fee. And that's what's going to happen with this app as well. Anything that comes out of this is going back into it. And so one thing I'm really excited about that is we're going to have some easier tracking features. For those of you who do track your diet on How Much Fee, you might spend a little bit of time each day doing it. We want to reduce the amount of time. If you're just getting 8 grams of protein a day and you just want to click a button that says, I got 2 grams of protein at breakfast, you should be able to do that really easily, maybe even on your watch. And so we're trying to bring people into the community who maybe don't want to do the sort of obsessive line item tracking that How Much Fee has right now. And of course, Cook for Love and Go Low Pro are really key parts of it. Those will be integrated into it. So if you find a food in Go Low Pro, which is also in How Much Fee, it is going to link through. And part of what that does, Go Low Pro has always been disorder agnostic. It's been for all low protein diets. And that's why it wasn't linked to How Much Fee. Now that we're going to expand the Eat section of this app open to everything, we can really integrate those more tightly. So when we look at feel, this is actually an idea that came from Heather Bomar many years ago, who said it would be super helpful if when we opened up How Much Fee, we could just do a quick mood tracking. I don't know if it was because she had an almost teenager, don't know, can't say. But it was a fantastic idea and really an easy way to get a quick check on how people are feeling. So you're going to be able to do a mood check-in. We haven't quite determined what it's going to look like, but we do have all these cute little icons we really like. That's also going to allow you to record other symptoms. So if you want to go and say, rate how you're feeling today, and then you can say, but I had a headache last night, or, I was constipated on Tuesday, or XYZ. That is all going to go into your health record. And that is the kind of information that is very useful to your clinical team. So when they go in and say, how you've been feeling the past 6 months, you can look and say, oh, I had a headache on the 28th day of every month. I wonder why. Does that have anything to do with PKU? Yes, no, maybe. Just really give you deeper insight into how you're feeling. Move is exciting because that's another request we've had a lot in How Much Fee, which was just hard to do in a web app, the ability to integrate a fitness tracker. And back when that was originally requested, it was just going to be like, how many calories did I burn versus how many calories did I track? Now, with everything that you can do in these trackers, if you will be able to have activity, sleep, heart rate, all the other biometric markers that are tracked by your watch, we can feed in and overlay with all that other data you're talking about. Through Apple Health, you also have the ability to integrate your EMR, so that your electronic medical record. That gives us a lot of other passive data that you don't have to enter. You don't have to enter all your medications. You don't have to enter your doctor's visits. But all of that, again, feeds into the picture of your health. And then we have play. And play is sort of a two-pronged concept. One is just a community mechanism. We want to get people engaged. We're going to have challenges like the PKU flock is walking to the moon, or the MSUD flock is walking to Texas this weekend. Donate your steps to that challenge. It's not about achieving goals and feeling that maybe you failed to do so. It's about collaborating and being engaged with your community. And the other thing, and why Dr. Christ is here, is that we're working on some games which will also be assessment tools. And we're sort of just delving into that, but we've got some incredible talent who Jeb will talk about in a minute, who will be working to see what we can get from these games in terms of symptoms that you might see with high Phe levels. I mean, I think we know there's attention issues and other markers. And so all of these are feeding into what is essentially an organic natural history. We're going to know for people who engage with the app day by day what is going on in all these sections of their lives if they contribute, by participating. And that really is an incredibly rich data set on which we can work to, again, draw those conclusions about what the community needs to see and what solutions researchers can offer, what solutions or support clinicians can offer, and what we, patient support organizations like the NPKUA, PKU News, and all the other IEM support organizations really need to do for their community.
How about a round of applause? That was a lot to process, I bet. It's kind of a large step forward. Thanks, Sarah. So my name is Jeb Haber, and I guess Sarah introduced my roles. I've been on the stage quite a bit here. I want to introduce the staff and then talk a little bit about kind of the research vision here, and how we're gonna pull this off. You might be asking, wow, that seems pretty complicated. You're a small nonprofit, how are you gonna do that? And it starts with the staff. So Sarah, who we all know and love here, has a software engineering background. When she wrote How Much Phe, she left her software business to come work on this stuff for you all full time. So she made that sacrifice and has been invested in us since. I want to introduce Michael Sittler in the back here. Just hi, Michael. So Michael and I worked together at Microsoft for about a decade, maybe a little bit more than that, building high-scale intelligence systems. We have Amaya here too, I'll introduce in a second, in Windows, Internet Explorer, and some of the other safety and security products at Microsoft. So we've got a world-class operations guy on the staff now. Sarah's built a lot of infrastructure over the years and has been juggling all that for a very long time. Michael's helping sort that out so that she can do some other things like testify before Congress and help define this roadmap with us. So I just wanted to introduce those guys as it relates to flok. We have our staff dietitian, Jen Beezer, who, So when you think about the data that allows us to manage these diets, it's not coming from the USDA. It's not coming from the requirements for food labels to get to the granularity that some of us need. It's coming from Jen. So she's the one who's working with food companies to figure out when new foods come on or recipes change, how to keep that data accurate for you. So we owe her a debt of gratitude. It's on the back of Virginia Schuett's work, and we're bringing that forward. So there's Jen, and then Nikki we brought on recently to help drive community engagement. So she started this winter and ran our summer camp in Antelope, Oregon this last year. So she jumped in with both feet. Thanks, Nikki. And Nikki's daughter has a urea cycle disorder. So she's one of the, talking with my hands. She's one of these, member of these other communities. She's heavily involved in Cook for Love before we hired her. But there's other communities out there, as Sarah alluded to. So we're happy to have another one represented on our staff. We also have maple syrup urine disorder represented on our board, our treasurer, Adrian Mays. So that's the staff. Green button. Oh, geez. It does double click, I think. All right. So there's a lot of people here. I need to introduce these people so you understand how we're going to pull this off. because this is a big project, right? Like if you were to go out and build this project on spec, it would be really expensive. Luckily, we have some in-house talent. Michael and I did this for years. After we kind of decided that this was what we wanted to do here, the person I wanted to have on board first was Amaya. So Amaya and I worked together at Microsoft for a lot of years, again, building intelligent systems. He also went and worked at Facebook, working on their relevance algorithms. He's a program manager, a researcher, a developer, and sort of the most technically deep person that I know. He's dabbled in everything. He flew in to be with us today. He was consulting with a startup in Croatia. Then he was in, what? Serbia, working with his research, some of his researchers there. He works at Microsoft Office now in the research team. And then he came back to Amsterdam to be here. And he's managing a lot of the relationships with the development side of this and the design side of this. And we owe him a debt of gratitude. He has put a lot of work into what you're seeing here. So I just want to acknowledge that. That's Amaya. So Amaya has this research and development background as technologist, broad depth. Jeff Holton, who we'll bring in a later part of the project. Some of these folks are going to be working like in different phases of the project, but Jeff's a PhD comp sci guy. He's a lecturer at UW. He's the head of research on AI for Google Maps. So if you ever get the eco routing stuff in your Google Maps, your Drive stuff, you hear commercials about that. That's Jeff's team that did that. He wrote a book on AI. I was the technical editor of that book. I only agreed to it if he just made sure there wasn't too much math in there. But he's a brilliant machine learning guy. And when I went out to these people, I painted an early vision of what you're seeing here about bringing data together so we could improve the health of this community and understand what was going on better to inform research. And every single one of these people, and I'm going to go through all of them, but every single one of these people said, yeah, that's a great idea. I really want to work on that. And lots of these folks are late in their careers, and they've done things, big things. And their feedback to me was, this is going to be a really nice way to take the skills that I have and leverage them for something good. I've done it in the corporate environment a lot. There's only so much of that you want to do. But I've talked to other people outside of this group as well about it that are excited. And we have a deep set of folks through Jeff and Amaya and my background that I think we'll bring in to help with this. Jeff McCune is technical advisor. He's engineering manager. He worked on Minecraft EDU for the last few years, so he owned the educational stack for Minecraft. We have Sean, who's up here. And as we looked at our assessments and we were trying to make sure we had an expert to help us develop those, Sean, we've worked with over the years, and he's a really easy guy to work with, and he's a wealth of knowledge. And after we had him brief this team on some assessment works he's doing and just kind of talk to us about his ideas. And we had a meeting without him, not intentionally, and everybody was sort of unanimous with, man, I'd love to take a class from him. Like, that was so much fun. We learned so much. So we're excited to have him. Daylin, who's a ball of energy, like, where's she at? Yeah. So, yep. That's basically why we got Daylin. So once she finishes her med school, we'll get her involved a little bit deeper as we kind of look through the research plan here, right? Because part of what we're able to do here is we're able to do targeted research. If we want to say, do a study on exercise or a study on sleep, there's a process in this platform to recruit those things and generate specific data that we're looking to generate. So we're going to need more input from the clinicians over time. This will develop. This group will get larger over time. This is really just kind of the initial steering committee. Sue Gluck is an attorney that I work with at Microsoft. She wrote the original Windows privacy statement. So we know we've got a lot of sensitive data here. And so we wanted an attorney with deep privacy experience. And so we've got Sue helping. Right now, she's the Senior Director of Academic Relations at Microsoft. And in her words, her job is to give away money to universities for research with a primary focus on AI and those types of systems. She's actually an engineer by training, and then she got her JD at Stanford. She's an amazing person. And then Rosie's the last one on this team. And Rosie works at the VA in sort of claims processing, project management, and development. So she has a lot of EMR experience, but she's also a game designer. So as we look at building the assessments out, we wanted somebody who had some creativity. She's an artist, but she's also a computer scientist. So that's the team. These people, like some of them have a connection to PKU and like most of them don't. None of them are being compensated in any way. And all of the patents, et cetera, that come out of this are going to benefit this community. So as this grows and generates value, that value gets invested back into the community. So this is not a commercial endeavor. I just want to be clear about that with everyone. And these folks are here to help bring this all together. So that's the team. So we're not going to like go into data science here. I'm just going to do an illustration of how this might look, and then we'll wrap it up for Q&A. I think we're largely on time. So pulling all together. So imagine a scenario where you could track your personal symptoms, and these are, notional. It's not necessarily that you're angry, but maybe it's anxiety. Maybe you have a stomach ache. How are you feeling today? You lose track of that stuff. I can't remember how I slept 2 days ago. Probably wasn't so good, but it's been a little busy, but keeping track of that stuff over time is important. What are you dealing with? You're having stomach issues, those sorts of things. All these symptoms that we know occur in this community, but also just generally. So what are your personal symptoms? And think about being able to sort of see that over a month, and to have this not be like a laborious process. It's a check-in. It's an app that you're engaging with anyway because you're doing some food tracking and lookup. Or if you're just feeling bad, you're like, maybe I'll just log it. So you can see what's going on over a month, and maybe you're gonna, at some point, go to the clinic and kind of talk about how you're feeling over the year. And then you've got some data to help drive that conversation. So that's the sort of an individual flow in one of these lanes. Now we had multiple lanes, right? We had feeling, eat, move, play. You can imagine scenarios like this across each lane. I'm just doing it on the feeling side here, but this same concept applies across those other lanes. So now the flok experience. So now we've got symptom clusters at large. We've got symptoms at large. People are logging things. This is representative of the larger community, okay? So that one guy has logged his stuff, but then all the rest of the flok has as well. And this might be the PKU flok, it might be the HCU flok, the tyrosinemia flok, the UCD, type this flok, et cetera. There's going to be multiple floks. And you can imagine that, and that was sort of, maybe you didn't see the subtlety, but there's a grouping of the symptoms. So now you're able to say, well, you're able to ask some questions about the community at large. Okay, we're seeing patterns. What are they? We've got other data. We've got flok. We've got all of this data feeding into flok. And for the engineers in the room, it's not just an app. There's obviously a back end on this. But, notionally, the data is feeding into flok. And then we've got researchers who have access to that. And to be clear, in version 1, we're doing all the research in-house. Amaya, Jeff, and the guys and ladies that we recruit in, we're going to do all this in-house. We're going to prove the concepts, and then we're going to develop a strategy for how to extend. So this is all going to stay in-house for now as a proof of concept. So the data is feeding in, and that allows us to ask questions like, what do these symptoms map to? Are there correlations with certain foods, certain diets, certain exercise levels? Do the blood levels correlate to some of these patterns? Can we build predictive models based on the data we have? A lot of what we did over the years was build predictive models. And all you need is data, right? You need data and you need to do some labeling, do some machine learning, and we can build some predictive models. And I think that things like heart rate, resting heart rate, things that measure the autosomal nervous system are incredible signals. And we gotta assume that in a set of disorders where there's neurological impacts, that there's biological signals, and that's not just blood Phe, as we started out. That's sort of on the tail end of it. The whole person, if we can look at and see those signals, we can start to ask some questions about why, and we can start to make some predictive models. Did I get enough of that? Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to hand it off to Sarah, and then we'll do Q&A, and it's open book. Ask whatever you want. Ask hard questions. Ask silly questions. I know what you're going to ask. I'll just nip it in the bud. We are discussing if there will be goat creatures and sheep in the flock. For those that don't know, this is my daughter, Olive. This is my reason for doing all this. I'll hand it off, but I love this community. Like, when Olive's almost 13 now, and we have so many friends in this community. And I love that we can give back this way, that we can take something that would be pretty much impossible to build without a seriously larger set of funding and organization, with the kind of folks that we've assembled here, and give back to that community. And she's my inspiration for this, but now it's a broader group, and I just want you all to know that, like, I care about your outcomes, and I really want to see this happen for you. So I'll hand it on.
That first tough question someone's going to ask is, when can I download it? So we have a little roadmap here. As we mentioned, when we came up with this wacky idea, we decided the first step was to see if anyone else thought the idea had any merit. And so, was it only in January? A lot has happened this year. We did focus groups, and we did 2 sets. These were on Zoom, everyone's favorite room. And we did 2 sets of focus groups with each of these audiences. And that was adult and teen patients. Again, not just PKU, but we had representation from at least 5 disorders in that. And then we had caregivers, which that group had a very different set of needs and set of requests than the teen and adults. And I want to make a point that how much Phe is really pretty useful for those who are tracking for younger children, want that tighter control, have a little more time to invest. This next tool is going to be designed for everyone. And that's why we really wanted to get the input of those other communities, because when I designed How Much Phe, I was one of those obsessive mothers of a young child who was willing to spend time looking up and doing line item tracking. But I like to think I've moved on slightly from that, but probably not. But I will evolve someday, and I will use the easier tools that we're developing now. And then we talked to clinicians, because that was a lot of what we heard, that, we hear a lot about the breakdown between patients and clinicians, particularly older patients going into clinic feeling shamed by the question of, why do you think your level was high? And we had someone who said, if I could send a report to my clinician by email, say, I just mailed my blood spot, here's what's been going on with me. I had COVID, I'm training for an Ironman, I'm, swimming in the state finals, or, I haven't slept for these 5 reasons. Then when the clinician gets that level, the first question isn't, why is your level high? The first response is likely to be, according to the clinicians who said this is how they'd like to do it, is, wow, you have a lot going on in your life and your health. Let's talk about how we can deal with it, because your level was a little out of range. And hopefully that will feel a lot better for both the patients and the clinicians. That was not supposed to be such a long dot. Functional design. We've all been working really, really hard on designing little bird icons. And then people came in and said they wanted a goat. But another part of that is just making it easy to use. And so that's what we've been doing. Oops, skipped. We're about to go into development. We're looking at August likely. I don't know how long the gap between development and testing is. I don't think we have a true estimate yet from our development team, but that will be the next dot is testing, launch, and iteration. Nobody gets anything right on the first try, whom I know, and we're not going to either. And so after we launch and during the testing phase and after we launch, we're going to be making changes and we're going to be improving based on the feedback of all of you and everyone out there, hopefully, who engages with it. And then the next step after that is once we have data and we've been able to engage users into collecting this organic natural history data, we're going to go into research. And that is at first the in-house research that Jeb mentioned. But as we also mentioned earlier, at some point there will be a way for researchers to onboard people on studies or at least recruit for studies through this platform. And then our little bird is chucking along there between functional design and development. We haven't quite begun, but he is walking as fast as he can. So I cannot answer the question I started with, when can I download it? But at least we'll update the bird's path as we go. And I think that's it from us. So now we want to hear from you. I think Morgan and Olivia have some, and Michelle, have some microphones. So if you have a question, raise your hand and they'll find you. Thank you.
I have one here.
Just one question. I know we're always getting asked to enter stuff in the registry. Is this going to tie to that so we can enter our fee levels and basically just one shot be done with with all the data entry?
Yeah, well, is this on? Check. Yeah, it's a good question. Right now, that's not in the roadmap, but I'm on the registry committee as well, and we're all pulling in the same direction. So that's technically a different platform right now, which is hosted in yet another organization. So there's some complexity there, but we all know that we want this data to create the most value possible for this community, and we want to make it easy to interact with. And so over time, we'll sort that out. It's certainly not a V1 requirement. As we go out the door, we won't resolve that, but we will resolve that over time, and that will be easier. And this is all better together. So we certainly don't want to create a situation where it's harder on the patients to give data to scientists. That would be counterproductive. So just know that that's our mental model, and we'll get there. Yeah.
My turn, John. Okay. John Adams from the Canadian PKU Association. A couple of 2 points. The vision, multilingual? Question mark.
No, all software. All software will have a multilingual component.
Okay.
There's no V1, but certainly it won't be designed so that we can't do that.
Okay. Because I also have a global perspective of that. And that's one of the limitations of the platform from that other organization used for the current version of the registry. The other thing is we also have a clinical research project, the fee-free consortium, that is using an established platform mandated by the US federal government, REDCap. We've got the IEM rare. We're actually in Canada, we're doing a beta 2.0 version of IEM rare for a PKU registry, hopefully. But then we also have the folks, Nicole Boyce and her folks at RareX, right? And I'm wondering, I want to drill a little deeper about the vision for how we're going to, overcome the silos on data, so that we can all have it together. So,
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer that. So how much fee is going to be used as part of the the fee-free process, the original sort of the diet tracking part of it. And we're meeting with those guys, that after this today, to kind of talk through these visions and have a conversation with the scientists about this. I'd say that my answer is pretty similar on to the registry. Like, I think we all need to have a strategy for how we're pulling in the same direction. And we've got a little bit different thing we're trying to achieve here. It's a broader set of features. But certainly as it gets into the scenarios where we're trying to have registry data, we're trying to have access to patients, like having that be a consolidated story so that it benefits who we want it to benefit is certainly something we want. Rationalizing a bunch of disparate data sets and databases is not where I want to start this project, obviously, but as we get up to speed and there's capacity to do that, all these folks, we have to get together and resolve that. So certainly important.
Yeah, and just to add to that we are in discussion with all of those groups now. It's not something we're charging ahead and then we're going to be like, wait, what? We should have talked to you. It's been going on since the beginning of this project because we're aware of them. We're talking about with their technical approaches are, the depth of them, the facility of them. So it's when we get to that point where we do want to look at how we rationalize those data sets, we're already, deeply in with them.
So related question. So to start, I have about 1,000 questions, so I'll just keep it to one for now. Very exciting project, obviously, and very interested in some of the answers and thought process of consolidating the silos between the registry and the IBM Watson platform of the fee-free consortium and what you all are doing. But the short question, as a parent, the data integrity, the data privacy, the prevention of what I would call sloppy science of, grabbing some of this data and putting things out on social media about, PKU and, sloppy associations with negative outcomes. So what kind of is your preliminary thought or preliminary vision or strategy for data integrity, data protection, data privacy? Any of those that you'd like to address would be great.
Yeah. I'll start and she can back me up. So obviously we've got a data privacy expert on the scientific advisory board. We also have pro bono legal counsel from K&L Gates. They did our original privacy statement and our terms of use. They also have consulted with us on medical device requirements. We don't necessarily want to be a medical device based on those requirements, but there's a set of things that we have to do legally. There's a set of compliance and audit that we have to do. And we've, Amaya, one of the things that we've been working through with him is our audit path. Michael's also an ISO auditor, happens to be, that was one of his roles, doing the ISO compliance for a massive government contract with Windows Defender. So he has compliance experience, and then we don't need to go fast either is the other answer. We need to do it right. We're certainly not going to go out the gates with an external access protocol. This will be internal, the research will be internal. And I think as we start to work with other organizations and understand how their data sets are built in these things, we'll learn more about the landscape. So part of the answer is we've got a lot of advice, a lot of expertise, and we're going to listen to that, obviously, and we're going to go slow and keep things in-house on the data side. And then obviously from the engineering perspective, we're going to be selecting platforms that have HIPAA compliance built in and these sorts of things. That's part of our selection process for the developers. So, and then I'll let Sarah talk about like the not coming to conclusions and posting them kinds of things.
Yeah, I mentioned, or maybe I didn't, it was in my head, that when you play one of these games, which is also an assessment, it's not going to be like, you were worse than yesterday. Please go check your blood Phe level. Because that is the opposite of what we're trying to do here. And, you know, I do love that I see sometimes on Facebook, people will post the screenshot of the how much fee, blood fee chart, because it does have that green bar that says, you know, this is where you would ideally be. And people get really excited when it looks like a game of Pong inside. Again, I might have to explain Pong for some people, but inside that green bar. And I love Pong, but, you know, part of what we're saying is we're not returning conclusions to the user. We're returning their trends. And mostly when we're playing those games, just as one example, we're just like, great, you engaged. Good for you. Whether it's a streak and your bird gets a, you know, sweatband around his head or whatever, there's just going to be little somewhat goofy encouragements to just say, thanks for being a part of the community. It's not an assessment that they're going to see a grade on. And by the same token, when we talk about the ability to see those symptom trends or activity trends versus fee levels or anything, those are not coming back to the community. So they're not hopefully going to be shared as sloppy science. You know, that undergoes a very rigorous process to get rid of the bad data. All of us up here hate bad data. And you know, to really make sure that those conclusions that we're drawing, that we're pushing through the research channel are solid. And that relies on everyone to engage and to provide data. I mean, this is, you're donating your data, I think was a phrase from the registry presentation the other day. And it makes sense here. It applies here as well. Because you're donating your data, not only so you can better understand your own health or your child's health, but so the whole community can advance. And we have a real responsibility to make sure that that data that we are using is good and it's clean and it can't be misused in the ways you're fearful of. So we're aware of that charge and we accept it.
Okay. I have one over here. I don't think I've officially introduced myself in this room, so just so you all know who I am, my name is Kylie Garcia, and I'm a PKU adult. I was taken off diet at 5 per my clinic, and I was back on diet at 21 when I became pregnant with my first child, and I now have 5 children total. So I have kind of a unique experience because I've been on, like, I went immediately from a regular diet, like meat, everything. Thank God I'm moderate, so I do have some residual enzyme. My levels don't go above 19 off diet, but I went like all in. I went 150 milligrams regular diet to 150 milligrams in one day. Like, I didn't know anything. I knew nothing. I didn't know what PKU was or the diet. So with that being said, that's just leading up to my question. I 5 years of being pregnant and breastfeeding and my tolerance fluctuating up and down through all of the pregnancies. I've been on, like I said, as little as 150 milligrams all the way up to 2,000 milligrams, depending on what my activity levels are, where I'm at in my pregnancy, whether I'm still breastfeeding. So I have a lot of experience from doing, 2 blood levels each week during my pregnancies, charting meticulously, like always calculating my fee no matter what, every single day for the majority of 12 years. So with that being said, I personally prefer that to calculate my fee intake, my milligrams of fee, because I have found it to be more accurate. I have found it to be more consistent. I have found it to help me keep my levels more tightly controlled. So for me, even when I was on 2,000 milligrams, like I still calculated fee, even though that's technically so much protein, it would be easier not to. I have found, however, that MyFitnessPal is so much more user-friendly. And so one particular thing that I'm wondering is there going to be a way that this How Much Fee app could automatically track your most frequently used foods, just like MyFitnessPal does? So they just pop up for you, just like MyFitnessPal?
Yes.
Yes. Is the short answer is yes. And I'm acutely aware of, there's a great community, particularly of protein counters, but even of fee counters. who use MyFitnessPal, and we looked at that as an integration. And rather than do that, because we do have this really rich data set for Phe, and again, we're getting all the other amino acids in for the other disorders. So we need to build that. So we just decided we're going to make the features better. And so that most recently used and all those other things, we're skipping over the barcode scanner. It's going to be search by image. So, you know, just sort of skipping that whole barcode scanner question, but you'll still be able to do it very simply and easily. You also will be able to do line item tracking. None of the features that you have in How Much Phe Now are going to go away, but there will be other modes and sort of easier ways to interact.
I have just one last comment on usability. As somebody who has searched for watermelon, comma, chunks and balls about 10,000 times, I don't know. 17,000 times. She has the data. That was the test that I did when we did the original How Much Phe development when I was at, I'd always use that food. But the USDA data names are a mess, and the search as a result is a mess. So if you ever had trouble finding stuff because it's called summer squash, zucchini parentheses, can't ever figure out how to find that, that's going to get fixed. So there'll be a new search protocol, and again, the search by image. So usability gets way better also when you're in a smartphone app versus a web app. It's not going to be the pin thing. It's going to be an actual native app. So speed, usability, ease of use, those are all key. So.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to be the first to thank this panel. And by the way, wow, I'm loud. I saw the first presentation on this late last year, and I finished and I was trying to absorb it. And I looked at my wife and I said, I think the people who, when I get in my car and the little map comes up and says traffic's light on your way to work and where the Starbucks is, or when we talk about something, I open up Facebook and all of a sudden there's an ad on that same thing. I said, those people are those people, and it's awesome. Those smart people can help us make this community better. So thank you guys for everything you're doing. I would just like to also say thanks to everyone for carving out time to be a part of this community and coming to Portland and supporting this event. Do we have the little thermometer and see where we ended? I'm looking at it here. I think we're over. Just wow. I would also like to remind anybody who hasn't taken the survey, there's two surveys, one on the conference itself and then one that's more designed to help us as we forward with our strategic plan. They're on page 19, and I would just, again, encourage you to do that. And I'd just like to wish everybody a safe trip home, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully in 2024. Thank you.